Hey, all. Thank you all for spending some time with me. If you like what you're seeing, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you guys for spending your time with me. I can't thank you enough. I'm pretty sure, though, if you found this channel or this page on YouTube, you probably already have an understanding of how biblical teaching can coincide with accepting some of the realities of warfare. That is not to insinuate by any means that all warfare is just or even morally legal. It is, however, merely to stipulate that the Bible itself is not entirely a pacifist teaching. It's not. There are reasons that Christians should go to war, and even more directly, the Bible refers to believers as spiritual warriors, people that put on the full armor of God, right? That type of talk and connotation runs hand in hand with biblical teaching. It is with that frame of mind that I'd like to address you guys right now, and particularly the individuals who wish to not get involved with the social unrest that is going on currently and has been for the last few months. The conscientious objectors for fighting for what is morally right. The people who say, I would rather not, be bothered to get involved, as if that somehow provides them absolution from any indirect attachment to bigots, for those who should care, but for some reason won't. Now, I am often significantly involved in activities that, on today's connotation, are associated with social justice causes, right? Most people don't have a full understanding of what that means, but I believe in justice as a social norm. More often than not, these causes in my particular field deal with racial bias and racism, right? It is an ugly topic that requires Americans as a whole, particularly white people, to look both inward and outward at the realities of being both white and non-white in this country. And although I have to admit that realizing the level of racial bias that exists in the country is depressing and disheartening overwhelmingly for Black and brown people, the truth is it can be equally frustrating, or nearly equally frustrating, for white people, particularly those with a conscience. It is that frustration, especially when forced to deal with the ugly realities of our society, that often engender white people to choose not to get involved in anti-racist endeavors, right? No one wants to be frustrated. The reality is that introspection itself is often the most painful. It goes, of course, without saying that all growth begins with some amount of discomfort. I am, of course, giving the vast majority of individuals the benefit of the doubt by at least insinuating that there is some desire to confront the innermost demons of the society. And it is because they realize how awful those demons are and how frustrating it can become that they don't want to do it. It should go without saying that there is a large contingent of the population that refuses to admit that demonic forces like racial bias, bigotry, and white supremacy even exist. But that topic deserves its own video and individual post, and I probably already made it. In the effort of providing an understanding for the reason some individuals choose not to be introspective, I'm reminded of a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. And he said, and I quote, I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride towards freedom is not the white citizens councilor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who patronistically feels he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who consistently and constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is more bewildering than outright rejection. You see, that quote encapsulates a reality that I've experienced up close and personal, and has frustrated and bewildered me to a level I can't honestly express in words. Those who choose not to fight for the rights of others are inadvertently standing with those who would otherwise denigrate and marginalize people who have been consistently denigrated and marginalized. I'm regularly confused as to how individuals who identify as Christian choose to ignore the meek, the poor in spirit, those who have cried out because of social injustice for centuries. The obvious connection to the Beatitudes in the Bible notwithstanding, doesn't the entirety of religious teaching force us to identify with those exact people? Aren't we as Christians mandated to be good Samaritans? Are we not called on by God to fight for those who have been systemically unable to fight for themselves? And while I understand it is much easier to ignore the reality of things, the ubiquitous nature of cell phones has helped define what the reality really is. There are two classes of citizens in the United States. Ones who are white and ones who are not. Arguably ones who are white men and ones who are not. Choosing to ignore this problem is like choosing to ignore cancer. Eventually, it will consume you. Ignoring it only expedites the process. But here's the thing. I've talked about the Bible a lot. And regardless of any individual's choice to be an activist against hatred or not, I'm charged to love the humanity that exists inside of each and every one of you. The potential for good. And so I did. I love you all.